Hey, it's been almost 4 years since my hysterectomy, and so many of you have been asking for an update. So today I wanted to talk about how the surgery has impacted my life, any ongoing challenges, and the one regret I have about it. Now, I'm not going to go into my history because I already have some very detailed videos here on YouTube. So if you haven't watched those, pause this one and go check those out first. Jumping right in, the first thing I wanted to talk about was freedom. So if the reason for your surgery is heavy periods, then you're going to really relate to this. So prior to the surgery, I was so restricted by my heavy periods. I wasn't able to leave the house. I was really having to schedule my life around them. And it was just becoming a really big challenge to do basic things like going to the gym, catching up with friends, going to see my family in Canada. That was becoming so hard, if not impossible. And post-surgery, as many of you know, I went through a really challenging time. So I separated from my partner. We sold our house and I had to move. And then my mom passed away. And then more recently, I've actually bought a house. So I had to move again. And because I'm here alone, I had to do almost everything myself. I moved most of my belongings. I did all of the cleaning and I had to do all of the appointments, like meeting with real estate agents, lawyers, all of that. And throughout the whole process, I was just so grateful that I was able to do it without being held back by my periods, because prior to my surgery, I don't think I would have been able to do everything that I did. Even little things like appointments were becoming such a big challenge for me. I also traveled back to Canada for my mom's memorial, and that international flight prior to surgery with my heavy bleeding, it would have been pretty scary. And I used to try to schedule my travel around my periods, but when you're having something like a memorial, my family had to pick the weekend and book the accommodation, and they couldn't schedule around me. Asking them to do that would have been ridiculous. So prior to surgery, that would have caused me so much anxiety. And looking back on it, it's just so crazy how restricted I was by my periods and how much I had to run my life around them. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that I feel like it's had a really positive benefit for my mental health. I feel like I'm so much more emotionally stable. I think leading up to surgery, having all that time being stuck at home, not knowing when I could do things, and having chronically low iron really took a toll on my mental health, my energy, my mood. So these days I feel so much better. I just feel more level and I don't have those really extreme up and downs anymore. Probably one reason for that is that my iron levels are better, but all that time being stuck at home, it just wasn't good for my mental health. So I wanted to mention that today because that is something that has been a real positive for me. Now, being a personal trainer, I have to cover fitness, and I am going to talk about core training in a minute because a lot of you have asked about that in my other videos. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about the impact that it might have on your physique. So a lot of women are worried that they're going to gain weight after their surgery. And if you have a surgery where your ovaries are removed, it could well be the case that you gain weight because you will be going into menopause. You might not. Weight gain is not inevitable, but it's going to make that a little bit more challenging. But for most women, surgery can have a really positive impact on their physique because you are now able to resume your normal activity levels. So prior to surgery, you might not have been able to be consistent with any fitness program, with being active because of your heavy periods, because of your energy, that sort of thing. And after your surgery, you're going to have that freedom back. And that's certainly been the case with me. These days, I am able to have a regular routine again, whereas prior to surgery, I was having to have a lot of time off because of my heavy periods. And then when I would go back to the gym, I wasn't able to train as hard as I wanted to because my iron levels were always so low. So it's just been so nice to be able to consistently train again. And that has made a difference to my physique in the last couple of years for sure. I definitely feel like I've been able to put... Nero, what on earth are you doing, buddy? I definitely feel like I've been able to put on some muscle, and I've been able to film YouTube videos regularly again for my online training program. So it's just made a really positive difference for me in terms of fitness. And also because my iron levels aren't so low anymore, I feel fitter. I feel like I am able to do cardio again. Prior to surgery, anything that got my heart rate up didn't feel very good, likely because my iron levels were always so low. And that's something that I've definitely noticed now. I can do things like have really hard leg workouts and push through exercises that prior to surgery I just wasn't able to do because I would get really winded, maybe a bit dizzy. I just wasn't overall feeling very fit. And so my overall fitness level has really improved as well. One thing I did want to talk about though was my iron levels, because that is the one ongoing challenge that I'm still having. So I had very low iron in the years leading up to the surgery because of all the heavy bleeding. Many of you will as well. And my doctor told me it was going to take about 6 months to build those iron levels back up. So to keep supplementing, keep doing what I was doing. But what I didn't realize is that those iron levels were still going to be a challenge for me now. And that is probably because I'm so active. Training weights a lot will really impact your iron levels. But I wanted to mention it because I still am finding that I'm getting low in iron, even though I'm supplementing regularly. And so it might be something that you want to keep an eye on. If you go for blood work, just get an iron test. It's a little thing to do. Most doctors will happily do it. And just keep an eye on it. Make sure that your iron levels are staying up, because just because you get your surgery doesn't mean they will necessarily resolve. And then finally, I wanted to talk about core work, because this is something that a lot of you have asked me about. And in my other videos, I said that I didn't do a lot of core work, so I didn't have too much to say. But in the last couple of years, I've started to do a little bit more, so I can comment on it a bit more now. I don't do things like sit-ups or things that are going to put a lot of pressure on my abdominal region anyway. There's better ways to train your core. There's smarter exercises that you can do. But in general, I don't have any restrictions when it comes to training my core. I feel really good. And in fact, prior to surgery, having those big fibroids, I was restricted with a lot of things I could do because I could feel them, especially the really big one. And there were exercises that just didn't feel good. So now I can do pretty much anything with no problem at all. And in my other videos, I did mention feeling a little bit of scar tissue, some pulling, that sort of thing after my surgery. These days, I don't feel anything at all. It feels completely normal there. And because I had just a small incision in my belly button, if you were to look at my stomach these days, you would have to look so closely to tell that I even had a surgery. So overall, in terms of fitness, appearance, physique, it's all just been really positive for me. So post-surgery, one thing I really wanted to do was give back to the YouTube community, help others, because when I was having my surgery, I had done a lot of research like so many of you are doing, and I found so much hope in other people's stories. So I wanted to share my own. And being a personal trainer and nutrition coach, I also did some videos on fitness and nutrition because I found that information was really lacking when I was looking for stuff. So I did all of those videos, and I would have never expected it, but to date, I've had over 200,000 views on those videos and thousands of comments from women sharing messages of hope, sharing their experience. So I'm just so grateful that I've been able to do that and to help others find hope and reassurance going into their surgery. And one thing that I found after my surgery that was missing was an exercise program that would help somebody get back into weightlifting. There just isn't a lot of advice out there about training weights after a hysterectomy. So I actually created an online training program for women who want to get back into weight training. And I've had so many women go through that program in the last couple of years, whether it's coming to me prior to surgery and doing a regular program to get strong before their surgery, and then doing that program after surgery, or coming to me after their surgery to get something to step back into weight training. And that's just been a really great experience. It's been so wonderful to help so many women get strong, and some of them have found a new love in weight training. So I wanted to mention that if you are looking for some help with your training, I'll leave a link to that program in the description of this video. It's called the Comeback Program. You can check that out over on my website and message me if you have any questions. So the truth is, I don't have any regrets about my hysterectomy. I'm so glad that I had it. But when I think about the years leading up to my surgery, if I had one regret, it would be not having my surgery sooner. So I lost so much life from my heavy periods. They were running everything. I had to completely schedule around them. And for those last couple of years, barely being able to leave the house, and the impact it had on my income, my business, on my relationships, I just wish that I would have done it a little bit sooner. But I do think that everything happens when it's meant to happen, and I don't think I was ready until I had that final ultrasound and they put it up for me and they said the term innumerable fibroids, meaning that I had so many fibroids that they couldn't even count them. It was in that moment where I just knew it was game over. Prior to that, I had stubbornly clung to the idea that I could keep my uterus, that I could manage until menopause. Looking back on it, it's crazy to think that I thought I could ever do that. I do think it happened when it was meant to, and after that ultrasound, I went home and started Googling surgeons and had that surgery within 3 weeks. So everything really lined up for me and happened when it was supposed to. But I just wanted to mention that because there is a bit of regret there that I maybe didn't do that sooner. So if you're on the fence about having a hysterectomy, I'm not here to tell you that you should have one. I'm just here to let you know my experience. And for me, it's all been very positive. I'm very glad that I had it. And my experience isn't unique. I work with so many ladies now who have had hysterectomies, and they're all really glad that they had it. And they are able to do things that they weren't able to do before their surgery. They have so much freedom. They can get fit again. They can get stronger than they ever have before. There's just so much hope for you post-surgery, and that's what I wanted to share today. Please leave any messages, comments, questions below this video, but keep them positive so that we can keep this a good place for ladies to find hope and inspiration when they're looking for information about their surgery. And if you want some help with your training, don't forget to check out my post-surgery training program, which I'll link to in the description of this video. Thank you so much for being here. Take care.